Welcome to today's tutorial. In today's tutorial, I intend to show you around the System Settings tab on your appliance. On the System Settings tab, this includes most of the settings for your appliance that were covered in the Quick Start Guide when you first set up the appliance, as well as a couple others that are not available there but are also good to set. Anything that you skip during the quick start or that maybe you set incorrectly or wish to change really any other time, you can set here. And I'll just go through them to get you a little more familiar with those options. Active Directory, this option is where you'll go to join the appliance to your domain. So simply put in your domain controller's information and then you can get the credentials screen to ask for a username and password for your domain admin user to join with that domain. Once that's done, you'll be joined to the domain and the appliance will be able to see machines that are on your domain so that you can create clients a little more quickly from that screen. The boot option here, this gives you the option to select how many virtual machines can be booted locally to your appliance at any given time. The default number of virtual machines that can be booted on the appliance is determined based on the size of the appliance. So the larger hardware appliance that's available to you, the more virtual machines can be booted at any given time. Currently, the local boot feature is limited to only hardware appliances, and the default value of maximum number of booted virtual machines can be changed on this screen, but we generally recommend that you leave it at the default value we have set. That was determined to be the maximum number that can be running at any given time without generally impacting performance of either the hardware appliance itself or the booted virtual machines. So while you can increase the number that will be running on the appliance, it can start impacting the performance of both the appliance and the booted virtual machines if you do. Certificate, this was where you can go to create a certificate to allow the appliance to be accessible through HTTPS. Configuration, this option is useful to preserve data in case something happens to your appliance and you need to recover after having to reinitialize the system. So once you have your system set up how you like, you've got all of your clients created and everything, come here and you can save this configuration. What that does is it saves a small XML file to your system, to like the computer that you're accessing the browser through. And that file can then be used in the event of having to initialize your appliance to help recover and reset your system back up a little more quickly. If that should happen, what you'll do is you'll come to this page, log into this configuration, upload that file, and it sets back the configuration to how it was at the time the file was saved. It sets back most of the configuration settings about anything that doesn't include a password, doesn't require a password. So it won't set back your password. If you're joined to VMware, it won't set back VMware connection, but it will set back all of your other clients, everything like that. So it can be really helpful in the event that something like that happens. Devices. This option is where you'll go to configure your networking on your appliance. Here you can set up your static IP addresses. You can set up whether you want to use multiple network cards, network interfaces, etc. And also where you can export the virtual to make the interface available to booted virtual machines. This is also where you'll set your default gateway and if you want to bond multiple NICs into a single interface to be used on the same subnet. Normally, if you do use multiple network devices, they can only be on separate subnets unless you bond them into a single bond, then they can be used on a single subnet. Disk. This is where you'll go to set up a couple of different things. First thing you'll set up is thresholds for when the system starts warning you that you're running low on disk space. The first is just low disk space. Default on that's going to be 5%, so when you reach 5% of your disk space remaining, it will start sending you that your notifications that you're running low on disk space. When you hit 2%, it will start sending out warnings that you're critically low on disk space. You can change that here if you'd like. The other options are disk temperature alerts. If any of the disks on your system exceed 50 degrees, then you'll get an email saying that the disks have exceeded their temperature thresholds, and that'll be a hardware warning. DNS, this is where you'll go to configure your DNS servers and search domain. That's all just pretty straightforward. Email, here's where you'll go to configure what email address to send the appliance sends emails from, and what email addresses get sent to, as well as email server information if it needs to connect to an email server. Firewall, this is where you'll go to configure firewall if you need to firewall any of the network interfaces on the appliance and how to configure them. So you can configure that all there. Hostname, this will just be the host name for the appliance and what domain you're connected to. Licenses, depending on what particular appliance you have, there will be different options in here. This specific one is a hardware appliance with a capacity license, so unless we need to increase the capacity here, there's very little need to come here. If you have a virtual appliance and you want to increase the number of cores that you're allowed to connect to, you can do that in here. Or if you need to increase the capacity or check other various information, there may be more information here. So depending on what particular system you have, there may be more information available in here. NAS. This option is if you have space on your RAID and wish to make some available as a network share, you can create a folder in here to be shared and to be a NAS. So you can share some of the space on your system's storage as a share. Networking, this just gives you an overview of your various networking settings, so you can just kind of at a quick glance see what's set up where. Notifications, this interface shows you and allows you to configure what events trigger emails to get sent out. So you can set up and customize whether alerts get sent out for hardware failures or for jobs failing or being successful, or any number of other options in here. Password, here's where you'll go to change the password on your appliance. Proxy, if you need the appliance to go through a proxy for whatever reason, you can set that up here. Reboot, to either shut down or reboot your appliance, you can do that here. If you select to reboot and there's something going on, the appliance will warn you about that. Registration, if you have an Infrascale dashboard account, you can register the appliance to show up on that Infrascale dashboard. You'll just put in your Infrascale credentials here and select which cloud region you want if you are going to be configuring it to replicate to the cloud, and then you could do that there. Remote access. This relies on your system being registered to that dashboard, and what this does is this allows you to access the appliance's management console through your connection to the cloud dashboard. So this will allow you to access the appliance's management console anywhere you have access to the Infrascale cloud dashboard, which should be anywhere you have internet access. So that way you'll be able to log into and manage your appliance from anywhere, not just local internet, or not just local network, rather. Routes. This lists out any routes that you have and will allow you to create custom routes if you want to. If you do set up multiple interfaces on separate subnets, the appliance will try to smartly create new routes for those new interfaces, and usually does a really good job of doing so. But if you need to create a custom route for some reason, this is where you'll go to do so. Snmp, if you want the appliance to communicate to an Snmp server, here's where you'll go to configure that connection. Time, here's where you'll go to communicate to configure the system to connect to your time server, as well as to, if you want to manually configure time settings, that's where you set that up. Update, the appliance will automatically download new updates if it can communicate to our update server, but it won't automatically apply or configure or it won't automatically apply them. So you'll get a notification on your appliances dashboard saying that a new update has been downloaded. So once you see that, you'll come here and you'll have to unpack the update, agree to the license agreement, and reboot the appliance manually. And then UPS, if the appliance is configured or is connected to a smart UPS and it's one that the appliance can see, here you can select what behavior to do in the case of a power failure. So those are the settings under this tab. If you have any questions about any of these options or wish to get more details, feel free to get in touch with support. You can get more details about our support. You can find more contact details for support under our website at infrascale.com/support. Thank you and have a good day.